Chris Allard with ONTrack Weekly. I'm driver number 76, Bone Stock from Sunset Speedway. I'd like to take this time to thank my sponsors, Junior's Haulage, East King Trucking, Technicore, Fast Car Audio, Nicky's Tire, and Auto Trimmaberry. Enjoy the show, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, hello everybody. ONTrack Weekly is on track one more time. A beautiful, beautiful sunny day today. Why can't we get this on the weekend? What is going on with this? Seriously, it's getting a little frustrating. How we doing tonight, everybody? Cam K here on GeForce TV. Now over 18,000 subscribers strong here on GeForce TV. What an amazing number. 18,000. We can get up there to 20,000 by the end of the year. That would be great stuff. Got a little bit of a new look to the show here. We've got some highlights as to some touring divisions that are going to be out or what's happening at certain tracks this weekend across Ontario. And, of course, we'll include the NASCAR Canada Series as a part of that. A lot of drivers and a lot of teams based here. I want to thank Chris Allard, the mayor of the infield at Sunset Speedway. His car is featured right there, is Bone Stock number 76. Beautiful looking ride. Thank him for that really cool intro behind the wheel. One thing I really like about what Chris does is he's got a stereo system in that car. So once the race is underway, even while it gets started, he's got the music playing. I love it. I think it's so unique. It's such a cool thing for the fans, and people, you can see the reaction. People absolutely love it. But we have a jam-packed weekend, Canada Day weekend, and we're going to get set to have the APC series back out at Delaware Speedway this weekend. You've got the modifieds, the Dayco Super Stocks, and the hot rods all out at Delaware as well. You've got double headers for Oscar, so they'll be Friday and Saturday. We'll talk about that. We'll look at their point standings right now. They've done a couple of races so far. We'll take a look as well at our upcoming event for the NASCAR Canada Series. They head back to Riverside Speedway. First time since 2019. As we take a look, Ontario Sportsman is out in Sauble Speedway, who also have a very big weekend. Sauble Speedway doubleheader. You've got the Sportsman Series out there. They've got Can-Am Midgets and the Outlaw Midgets as well. We'll take a look at there. The Outlaw Super Lates, they're out at Sunset Speedway, and the Ontario Modifieds are out at Flamborough. We got Peterborough having they have their typical weekly racing. However, it is also double tuning night out at Peterborough Speedway, and Full Throttle has a doubleheader of racing on Saturday and on Sunday. What more could you ask for as a race fan in Ontario? Tons of amazing action across the province. But this past weekend, unfortunately, it was the same old story. A lot of weather affecting races once again. I've put it out there on social media. It is literally the biggest buzzkill for racing fans, is to have weather, and not just weather that is affecting one little part of the province, but a lot of it. Unfortunately, we did lose Peterborough Speedway, Brighton Speedway, Grand Bend, Sunset. We got attempts at the racing for Full Throttle. We got the full card for Flamborough. Southern Ontario got out there. But the reality is the weather impacting this year. I think Peterborough Speedway right now, the junior lates have not even had an opportunity to have their features yet due to weather. And that's obviously been a really crappy start to the year. A lot of tracks, unfortunately, been affected. And I think Sunset's had a couple of good weeks where they could have pulled the plug and they didn't, and things held off. It was looking a little iffy when we had the initial Bill Zardo twin 46s. We got a little bit of precipitation, but it held off, and they got the night in. Unfortunately, the Flying Frank 49 still has not been able to get going because of the rain. Luckily, it looks like it's going to happen in August, and it's going to happen on its very own day. So we're not going to lose much there, which is great. The Flying Frank needs to be something that many people can come to, and I think even that Sunset's even got out, I think, on a better date where there's going to be less and less conflicts. I believe it's going to be on a Sunday now, which helps that there's no conflicts with Peterborough. There's no conflicts with Delaware. The hope is that we can get a good field of super stocks out there. I mean, this weekend is going to be the most interesting. This Friday, the Dayco Super Stocks head back to Delaware Speedway. Now, this is going to be very interesting because the Dayco Super Stocks out at Peterborough, we did see a pretty good home contingent of racers for their very first race of the season, but no one was beating Carson Nagy, who absolutely obliterated the field. Despite not winning the pole, Carson Nagy, when he starts up front, is somebody you have to watch out for. Now, hometown favorites out at Peterborough Speedway, you had Anthony DeBello, who won the pole, Marley Owen, Miles Tyson. Despite not running out of Peterborough Speedway this year, he still would be considered a home favorite. Connor Maltese ran out at Peterborough, even though he typically runs, he's out of Sunset. Roy Wilkie, he runs out of Sunset as well. Yeah, Dennis Sabalski kind of come out in the last couple of years. Yeah, a couple of weeks. He had Brad Laval, Brody Rickwood. He'll run in, but no Daryl Lake for that first race out at Peterborough. I kind of thought we would see Daryl for more than just the Delaware races, but we'll have to see. So this time around, we had 15 Super Stocks for the Dayco event at Peterborough Speedway. Let's take a look at who we could potentially see out at Delaware Speedway as well, because the Super Stock division out there is stacked, and we know you got names like Jay Dewar, Carson Nagy, Hudson Nagy, Lane Zardo, Ryan Dyson. Those are the names that you're going to expect to see. We take a look though at their point standings right now. We don't have any indication this is what's going to happen right now, but we take a look. Carson Nagy currently leading the point standings over Trevor Culver, and Culver's not signed on to be a part of the Superstock division currently listed on their roster, but you never know if he'll sign up and be a part of the event. Justin Collison could be somebody that we can also see. Ethan Orr, Jay Cox, Cody Wilds, Hudson Nagy out there, Andrew Ferreira. We expect to see Daryl Lake there since he was listed on the entry for 2024. Lonnie Thompson, he's done Superstock races in the past. So the real big question will be how many Superstocks we do get this weekend as a part of the Inventory Express Superstock division. Unfortunately, we're not able to get their feature race done this past weekend. They were unfortunately rained out at Delaware Speedway, which again impacts. Normally you get to be able to see races out at tracks on the Friday, and then if it rains on the Saturday, at least we got to see something. Luckily, Ohsweken Speedway not affected at all. And yes, the mayor of the infield, Chris Allard's car featured here on the page, and of course his driver intro to to start the show, and I want to thank Chris, who's in the chat. Always nice to see Chris out at the racetrack going, kicking some butt, and one of the best looking bone stocks I think we can say in the province. And I'm really hoping we get to see a lot more of racers from all over kind of come together. We obviously see it at Autumn Colors all the time, but I'm hoping we could see a bit more. Like, I really do want to see more, if possible, to do get some of those Delaware cars and or vice versa, get some Sunset Peterborough, get those guys coming down to Delaware. I know it's a big expense, and that's the biggest part of it, right? Flamborough as well. Their pure stocks division is fantastic. The fun stocks out at Varney as well. We've got a very big bone stock, pure stock, fun stock field across the province. So it would be very nice to see some of those. Now we've got the bone stocks out at Sauble as well. So you're going to have the Epic Racewear bone stocks this weekend. I know Brandon Feeney in the chat. He's also going to be part of racing bone stocks out at Sauble this weekend. And that's something else that we definitely, if we had the big event, I want to say there was a big pure stock event out at Flamborough. It was like 10,000 to win a couple of years ago. I think this would be an opportunity to do something like that again, because there is such strong fields in every division, in every track right now that runs the pure stocks. I would say obviously Grand Bend's got a little bit more work to do there. Not the easiest to get cars out, it looks like, out at Grand Bend, but I'd love some sort of a big race for the pure stocks, because I mean that's a good way to reward that division that's been so supportive at Flamborough Speedway. There is definitely some very, very talented race car drivers across, but I would love to see a Chris Allard, a Josh Berry, Ben McPherson, Jordan Owen, the SKLD bunch, Austin Jeanette and Carly Willman, Steve Oakes, the Burnett brothers, get them all out to Flamborough and add in some of those Delaware. Like, you think about like 40 cars coming from Delaware. If you had a really big event like that, potentially have a really big pure stock event. I know we've talked about last year about potentially something for the mini stocks as well. Now, mini stocks have also kind of taken a little bit of a dip at Varney, and a little bit of a dip obviously at Flamborough, but the Peterborough and especially at Sunset, they've done very, very well. So we'll have to see kind of what happens there. But this weekend, the APC Late Model Series is back. So yeah, Sunset Speedway does have the bone stock, as Calvin Reeser just mentioned. Bone stock Invitational, 1,000 to win. I'm not going to remember what weekend it is. I think it's pretty soon, is it not? That's the Hilltop weekend out at Sunset Speedway. $1,000 to win in the pure stocks. And I think that, again, we got to get people to come out to these big specials. That's the big thing. Battle on the Hilltop, 6 p.m. start, August 24th. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the $1,000 to win. It just says the bone stocks 20 laps. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I could have sworn that's when it was, but we'll have to see. July 22nd for Rib Fest. Let's see. Is it July 20th? Well, there is no July 22nd on here. We got a July 20th. I don't see it here, actually. It's not listed down in the schedule here. So we do know that there is an invitational that is happening, but again, we want to have people traveling out to these events, but it has to be worth it. Is $1,000 really gonna bring people out from with their bone stocks? Hopefully. I mean, the one thing is that you can say is the bone stock division out at Sunset especially gets regularly 15 to 16, 18 cars on the regular. I've had a couple that haven't been able to make it out every week, but for the most part, you've got your regulars that are a part of things. So that's obviously solid and that's what we want to see. Let's head over to the APC series, talk about where things are. We'll start with the Dayco Super Stocks. As we mentioned, Carson Nagy is your points leader. Of course, they've only had one race this season. Who are you going to see out there? We've already talked about some of the names that we could potentially see coming in from Delaware. I would not be shocked to see a Justin Carlson be a part of this. We know Brody Wickwood will be a part of it. Hudson Nagy be a part of it. Ryan Dyson will be a part of it. Big question marks on, Trevor Culver, and definitely some question marks on whether or not we would see like Alani Thompson be a part of it, Cody Wilds. I don't think some of those names would be a part of it. So the Dayco Superstocks will be back in action on Friday, but they're not going to be alone. Let's take a look at where else we need to be watching, and that's the Modifieds and the JRS Hot Rods. TJ Edwards currently leads your point standings for the Just Foam It Modifieds with a win this season. He also has Jason Keene, last year's champion, sitting second with Brad Pearsall. Dale Reinhardt sits fourth, and Steve Trindell. Wally Wilson sits sixth in the points standings. AJ Ems, despite not making every race, sits in seventh in the point standings. David Mathers, Ryan Dick, and Chris Milwain. Shane Pollock, Rick Spencer Walt, Tyler Liscombe, Ryan Dantimo, Monty Farrell. We got Darren Malcolm, but no Norman Newman, no TJ Marshall, and no Mark Hamaker so far this season. Unfortunately, though, I saw that modified for Norman Newman listed, so I don't think he's going to be out this season, unfortunately. And then, of course, the big question marks are we going to see some of the other names out there that have raced mods when we get to the Delaware Speedway, like a Jeff Schauer, like Jamie Cox. Very big potential that we could have other names show up. Whether it would be those names themselves, hard to say, but the Modifieds really do need a bit more help, I think, on the week to week. The action is good and the talent is there, but what we need is just to have a bit more support. And Just Foam It has put on a great program with Oscar, and we'd love the Modifieds to have as many cars out there as possible. And obviously they always put on a good ride wherever they are. So we'll ride through, and we'll continue to see who's going to be the points champion. I mean, TJ Edwards has been trying for a while, so we'll see if TJ Edwards can get that sorted out. Jason Keene, of course, won it last year, and Brad Pearsall having a great start to his season in the number 15. But they're not alone. They're going to have what's been a very tough start to the season so far for two races for the JRS Oscar Hot Rods. Tyler Hahn, currently your points leader, over 1 point over Rob Bromley. And Tyler Hahn, of course, has been the man in the hot rod division. One of the most beautiful hot rods I have ever seen that he has got this year. Rob Bromley sitting second. He's got a win out at Sauble Speedway, the last race. Steve Book, can't ever count out Bookie. He's third place right now. Kenny McNichol in the Earnhardt Senior Throwback sits in fourth. Trevor Thompson is fifth. Steve McCaw has had a tough start to his season so far. Travis Farrow, Steve Ecker, David Rockwood. Ryan Cowan's also had a tough start. Thomas Wunsch, Connor Ellis, and Haley McNichol are your drivers that have made 2 attempts so far this season. Dan Archibald on the podium in the last race. Cole Weber, Matt Hopkins, Nick Clark, Dave Evison, Cole Ecker, Jeremy McLean, Dave McMahon, Tyler Ecker, and Jamie Adams. No attempts so far for Glenn Blaker, Matt Spry, and John Gaunt. We know John has had some damage that needed to be repaired, so that's why we believe he has not been out. Ryan Cowan, unfortunately, they've had some mechanical problems that have plagued them to start this season. Same with Thomas Wunsch. Connor Ellis has had some issues as well. So it's been tough for the contenders. We know Steve McCaw as well has had some mechanical problems. Haley McNichol. Honestly, that first race of the season at Flamborough really kind of set things off, and then there was mechanical failures that resulted in crashes, and we really don't like to see cars bent up, especially in this division. it is one of the best out there, and they've got one of the best supporters of racing in JRS auctions, being a part of things. So hopefully we can get things kind of turned around so far for the hot rods. Such a great division. You got some young stars coming into this series. Haley McNichol, Thomas Wunsch, Connor Ellis that are a part of it, and we want to be able to see that. You got the Ecker brothers with Tyler and Cole as well, young guys coming into this series and taking on some of these veterans. And it's going to be tough to beat them, but the more and more we can get more hot rods out there, the more and more this series will continue to impress and continue to show off the just beauty of race cars. And that's the biggest thing about these, is that they are just some of the best looking race cars that we really are blessed to see out on the racetrack. Now, we mentioned the APC Late Model Series. They are also back at Delaware Speedway this weekend. Let's take a quick look at them. Always make sure, if you want to go to apcracingseries.com, they're always up to date on all the statistics. They do a great job. I know their social media man himself, Michael Wallace, does an amazing job. He's going out there getting as many interviews as he possibly can, doing posts and updates. Let's take a quick look at the APC Late Models presented by Castrol. Blair Wickett, despite not winning a race this season, is your points leader. 2 points over Kyle Steckley. Joe Lawrence sits in third place. Taylor Holdaway is in fourth. Great start to the season for Taylor. Shea Gemmel sits fifth. Junior Farley sixth. He was, of course, the winner of the opener. Ray Morneau in the number 30, and Sean Chenoweth is in eighth. Jake Sheridan in car number 52, and Tyler DiVincenzo share ninth place. Cole Quinton is next, the rookie on this season. Eric Della Riva had a tough race at Peterborough Speedway. Josh Stoddy did as well, and Connor Pritico, he's going to hope to try and rebound. Cody Ferry, and how about the man himself, Dan McCaddy, got the win out at Peterborough Speedway. Brandon McFerrin, he was not in the last race. Dale Shaw raced out at Sunset. J.R. Fitzpatrick also in contention to win that race out at Flamborough Speedway. Didn't happen, but we always love seeing J.R. Fitzpatrick out there. Danny Benedict, Glenn Stiers, Mike Gowdy, Brandon Watson, Kendra Adams, Rick Burbridge still in the races for Paul Major, Ryan Kimball. I thought Ryan was on that list, but I guess he didn't get to start that race. Bobby Cusino, James Horner, and Jacob Mercer were your racers out at Peterborough Speedway. So the big question mark is, who are we going to see potentially from Delaware Speedway be a part of the APC event? We obviously had a lot of competitors in both Sunset and at especially out at Flamborough Speedway and Peterborough. Peterborough actually surprised me with how many we had out there. Bobby Cusino, Jacob Mercer, you had Marley Owen there. Like that's what APC, I mean, allowing these weekly guys to come in and be a part of the weekend festivities is going to help, because that's not, you have a situation like Dan McCaddy. I mean, Dan goes out, local favorite, and he dominates and he wins an APC event in front of everybody. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that wasn't unexpected. It's Dan McCaddy. Like we would expect that he would do very, very well. And that's the hope, is that each week you have racers that'll be a part of the festivities that can go out and potentially win the race. And obviously we're going to have to watch this upcoming week. I don't know what this means in terms of like if every car out there is going to be capable of being a part of the event, but in terms of the names that we have out at Delaware Speedway, you got Gary Adrianson, I think would be the most likely, but he's also the points leader at Delaware right now. So that might be something that maybe he decides to, maybe he doesn't. We already know Ray Morneau is going to be a part of it. Ron Beauchamp Jr., I wouldn't mind seeing him in the race. Jesse Kennedy, Jaden Chapman, Matt Robley, Marshall Schrank, Jake Hooker, Brady Smith. Pat Friel is another one I think we could, if there's somebody that's going to be a part of it, maybe Brandon Vanderwall. Paul Major, he's done 3 races out at in the series so far. So he's done every race for the late model series. John Arts, hey, that would be kind of cool to see John Arts be a part of it. Mark Jacobs, Barry Watson. So whether or not they will all be a part of it, hard to say. But I'd love to see it. I see We Are Coming. McPherson Motorsports is going to be a part of the hot rod race at Delaware. If so, Ben McPherson making his first start in the hot rods, Oscar Hot Rods at Delaware Speedway. Exciting stuff. And love to see it because it's another new face, another new name coming to the series. And they've acquired, that's an old Bill Clark car that McPherson Motorsports has. And that's going to be really nice to see. I love seeing that we've got some fresh faces, some new names coming in and it being a part of things. But again, this is the weekend of all weekends. We've got so much racing, and all I want is to see that we're going to get the full schedule down. Unfortunately, this past weekend, Flamborough is the only one that was able to get through and get their first full schedule out and get their car done. And, you know, you got to take some, liberties with the schedule to make sure you can squeeze everything in. You got to cut certain things. They had to cut Victory Lane celebrations, but they got the whole show in. Now, I want to make sure that this kind of goes across and is delicate, because I know people have strong feelings about it, but there was some situations this week where races started and the weather was questionable. Cars went into turn 3 and wadded up. I've never been a fan of going out on social media and giving your true feelings about what happened. Obviously, I can understand that people are upset. But public business, the public doesn't need to know kind of behind the scenes. And I understand there's people that are going to be upset about calls and that happens. We also have to remember we got fans that have social media and you got sponsors that have social media. We want to try and keep things, and I know it's an odd thing to request, but trying to be as positive about stuff as possible. And I've learned this myself, being in media, that if you are critical, and you do it in a non-constructive way, it can cause bad reactions. Now, whoever was right and whoever's wrong, that's you're never going to have people that are going to agree. You're always going to have people that are on opposite sides. But I applaud Trax for trying. I also applaud Trax for making the call early. I think the call had been made at some tracks before 10 o'clock. And it's easy to be weatherman. I would never want to be in a position as in charge of a racetrack, because the decisions that you have to make are always going to have somebody upset. If you go and it does rain, people are going to be upset that you wasted all that time. If you don't go and it doesn't rain, then it's, we could have raced. At the end of the day, it's kind of a crapshoot with weather nowadays. When you have heat at a certain point, you could have a thunderstorm form in a matter of minutes. And you got to have hope that the right decisions are going to be made. It is so easy for us to go out and say, well, that was a terrible call. It's much easier to do that. Let's try not to do that on public in a public setting, because what we're doing is we're just welcoming other people to do the same thing. And then other people get involved, and then we know how social media is. People go off and off and off and off at each other, and ultimately it makes no difference. The call was made or the call wasn't made. It's done. It's over with. We got to move on. And at the same time, if you don't agree, bring it up to the track when you're there next. Talk to them. Explain your feelings seriously. Like, it is, we're not 2, 3, 5 10 years ago where there's no way we could communicate with people. You'd have to have somebody's phone number to be able to contact them. There are so many ways to contact people now. And it doesn't come off very professional for partnerships to see people going off. So as somebody, a perfect example, we as S&S, as a podcast, have people that represent our brand. We don't ask anything of them. We'll promote as much as we can, but don't go off and do something ridiculous, because that can be a reflection of us. Same as if you're making comments about a racetrack, ultimately they can make the call whether they want you there or not. And I don't think we don't want to get into the business of that. We've already seen it this year. We've already seen people that aren't allowed back at racetracks. And we're not even into July yet. So it happens all the time. And I understand it's much easier to... we could have complained about a lot of stuff this past weekend. The weather was just miserable. Meanwhile, out at Newfoundland, for the first time in the 3 years that they've been there, they had amazing weather. And NASCAR Canada could have very well been, there's only 15 cars. Awful. Again, it's so easy to do it. This weekend, though, is one of those golden weekends. We talk about, look at all these touring divisions that are out. Now, oddly enough, we don't have any Ontario Legends or Great Lakes Legends this weekend. We do have, however, Sauble Legends, which I really hope we finally get Sauble Legends out there, because they haven't been able to get going yet. Poor Brad Holmes it's his first season as the GM out there, and they've already had rain impact 2 weekends, I believe it is already. We'll take a quick look though at what they've got going on, because Sauble is stacked this weekend. So if you haven't considered going to the beach this weekend, why don't we go about doing that? So let's take a look. We're right here at Canada Day Bash #1, presented by Epic Racewear. It's the Epic Racewear Bone Stock, starting at 6 p.m. with Can-Am Midgets, Outlaw Midgets, and the Ontario Sportsman Series, along with the ImageWraps.ca Sauble Legends, 25 laps there. Ontario Sportsman is 100 laps. Typically, Outlaw Midgets and Can-Ams, you're looking at 20-25 laps, and then Bone Stocks typically around the same. This is a tight squeeze. No debating there. One of the things that we can definitely say about Sauble is they don't have the easiest scheduling to maneuver. They really don't, but they try their best. You've got the Junior Late Models the next day on day #2, presented by High Grade Roofing. Junior Late Models, the Sauble Late Models will make their debut for the season, and then you've got Can-Ams and Outlaw Midgets, and of course the ImageDrops.ca Sauble Legends as well for 25 laps. Again, no United 8s this weekend. So Sauble Speedway has a stacked card this weekend. Of course, if you need anything, reach out to them, saublespeedway.ca. The beach is always someplace that you can put on a great show. The track is phenomenal. I know Brad definitely wants to get things going. Grand Bend is another question mark this year. They have had a rough start to their year. I think they've had one weekend so far. They've had rainouts, and then they also have their off weekends. What are they going to be able to do? This is where the question mark comes in about those rain events. And we know that there are fans that want reimbursement. I definitely understand that. The other side of it that I'm hoping tracks might look at, if possible, is to move events that are, quote, postponed. I don't know about adding them to the end of the schedule. However, there could be opportunities to do something like that, especially with the way that the weather is starting to be year in and year out. we're not getting typically that cold, and we're not getting a ton of snow in November, December. I'm not suggesting that this is what everybody's going to go do right away. However, I'm just saying there's possibilities that perhaps into September, into October, that you have options. Ultimately, rain weekends do save people money. They save race fans money. They save the racers money. They don't save the tracks money. I'd love it if there was no such thing as rainouts, that we could run all the time. It's just not reality. As someone who has a show based solely now on Ontario racing, I can tell you that the buzz, it gets harder to keep up when stuff is impacted by rain on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, there is not stuff that you can do about it. This past weekend was an example of, it was kind of rainy everywhere, and there really wasn't a hope of saving it. It missed full throttle up until the fun stock feature. And then it came down. Flamborough, on the other hand, got their entire card in. Pure stock features, pro challenge features, pro late model features, mini stock features, and this was a weekend for Flamborough Speedway to have a better week than they had previously. If you are unaware, Flamborough's mini stock division had one of the worst weekends I've ever seen a division have. Pretty similar to actually OSS at Sunset in our event. Our race was pretty bad. And that's coming from somebody in the series that says, we really didn't put on our best performance. And as Brandon Finney says, it's their entire card, plus they got the driver's intermission, the Meet the Drivers segment. Now, I do have people that were there that said the crowd was pretty sad. And that really is tough to hear. But the reality is, a lot of people aren't, if there's potential of rain, they're not going out. But this was the weekend that Flamborough's mini stock division had a much better go of it. They didn't wreck cars. We didn't have a tire fly. We didn't lose half the field. We actually had visitors from Sunset. Blaze Shaw and Jacob Sutcliffe made the drive to be a part of the mini stock race. And Paul Maltese took his late model down for a drive as well. I didn't see any pure stocks that came over, but when you have Peterborough also that was closed for the night, I would have hoped we got more than two. But as people have mentioned, you don't want to go. I believe it was actually Calvin Reeser that mentioned on last week's show. You don't want to go, if you're in the battle for a championship, you don't want to go and potentially wreck your car at a racetrack where you're not earning points. And that's a fair assessment. They had the Pro 4 Pro 4 modifieds there as well. And I'll admit, I don't know anything about them. It's the same really with the Ontario modifieds. For a guy like myself, I'm very... I need statistics. I need information. I like to know the names. I like to know the drivers. And I think that there needs to be a bit more responsibility on some of these series. And I say this as a racing fan. Got to have as much information out there to promote your racers, promote your divisions. I don't know who a lot of the racers are in some of these divisions. And if we can get a bit more of a social media and or a website presence, or at least updated, it would help a lot. And that isn't just on the series. That's also on the tracks that host them. Promote where you can find the series. You want people to get to know them. Perfect example is getting to know racers has been a lot of fun for us. However, a lot of it's been done because we were also part of the podcast, and we're learning a lot of the racers and a lot of the divisions through that. So, as race fans, we want to kind of find that information out for ourselves. But if you go to a website for a series and it's not updated in 3 years or 4 years or 2 years or even a year, it serves no purpose because that up-to-date information is just not there. Now, I will say that I still believe Flamborough Speedway's Pure Stock division is phenomenal. And the fact that they were able to get that card in, it shows the commitment. If anybody was questioning the commitment, they got that show in. Cam Thompson got himself back into victory lane in the Pure Stock division. It's been a while for Cam. He's struggled this season with a BT car, but they've started to turn things around. And I'll tell you, I don't know much about her, but Courtney Scott is damn impressive out at Flamborough Speedway. I don't know if she's normally this competitive. I know the 10 car has won previously and run up front previously, but she's had a couple of races where I go, holy crap, she's great. Her and Jillian Hills had a fantastic race last week, and the ladies know how to put on a show out there. You got Megan and Rachel Mitchell as well. Tegan Ellis, although I think Tegan's only done one race so far. Lisa Barton is out there. Haley Hill's out there. So they got a good crop of ladies out there. Reese Bourgeois, when she can, races out there. And Jillian Hills, I mean, what can you say about Jillian? She friggin' can win in anything. And I think is one of the racers that doesn't get enough attention for how good she. I mean, she's racing out at in the mini stock division out at Oshweekend, but she is someone that I think, again, the two of them, her and Courtney, really showcased quite a lot out at Flamborough. And once again, there was a great second feature. I think obviously you have to watch out for the flat broke racing teams. 92, Craig Cole. Craig Cole won all the time when I started watching racing during COVID period. And I started watching the Delaware stuff in 21, 22. Craig Cole was always competitive. Jordan Wilms was always competitive. Now these guys are running out here at Flamborough, and now they're just as competitive as they were. And you want to have a competitive division. And week in and week out, you have people that can win. And whatever system that they've implemented for their pure stock races has provided us with some new winners. And I think it's worked out really well. If they can just help, we can just help get a couple more cars each week. And I know counts aren't everything, but in terms of mini stocks, we don't have a situation where there's only 3 cars left. Mini stocks, we know there's a lot of good racers out there. Same with the late models. But their pure stock division is absolutely fantastic. I think more and more it's easy to get really impressed with a division where you don't know who's going to win each week. I think at the beginning of the year, I would have said it was going to be Wade Thorne's season to win everything. It was going to be Jordan Wilms winning everything. Craig Cole's kind of come out of nowhere. We saw him a couple of times last year, but a couple of strong runs for Chase Mitchell. Chance Rogers is somebody who I really think we could see get there for his first win this season. That number 12 car looks stout, really solid. And again, I think the competition level is so solid out at that track each and every week. And I feel like it's not getting noticed, which is sad because I think the talent is there. It absolutely is there. I mean, the mini stock division, I guess we'll say some weeks it suffers. Unfortunately, again, that's just the truth, and that's really everywhere. I mean, we can talk about that till we're blue in the face, really. I mean, the week in and week out, you can't always, like, not everybody can make it to the racetrack each and every week. And it's an unfortunate truth, but it is. I definitely think that, I guess we're going to have to, I was hoping that they would have results up for everything, but they don't. They have last week's stuff, which doesn't really help in this case. But again, you hear commitment questions and wonder about whether tracks are going to be here in the future, and you kind of need to do it. You need to support them as much as possible. I think one thing that's been really cool in the pure stock division out at Flamborough is that you are seeing new names joining. You saw it out at Delaware. We see it. Sunset had a lot of the same guys coming back, which is good. You can get a couple more new names coming in, and what I like seeing is that you've got veterans like a Wade Thorne, like a Jillian Hills, like a Mark Allen, who are showing racers how to race. We've had some issues in the pure stock divisions, and we had a big wreck in the heat races out at Delaware Speedway, and we can't be doing that. And we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago about the purpose of the heat races. It's an additional race that helps with points and lineups, get some extra time for racers. But would there be benefits to having spotters in the pure stocks, in the bone stocks? And I know it's a tough part to think about. But we know that there's a lot of young racers getting in there, and I don't want to see a wreck like what I saw with Will Quarry. Like, that's a bad wreck. It's a very, very hard wreck. We've had a couple occasions at Delaware where they've had some big ones, and that's always concerning. But I think for the most part, if you have a couple of veterans that have done it for years that can help teach the way, I think you'll see a lot more clean races, and we've seen it out at Sunset. I think we see it out at Flamborough as well. You got the veterans there that are kind of leading the charge and teaching the young racers how to race. Doesn't mean that they always get along. Absolutely, does not mean that we always get along. They always get along. But definitely, we want to see more of divisions where we're not destroying cars before the feature starts. No one wants to see that. Drivers are spending way too much time. Racers are spending way too much money. And Calvin brings up a good point. He says situational awareness is key. You learn to hear cars near you. And again, that's talk of a veteran. And I'm thinking right now, in most cases, I would think a young racer is not thinking about the situational awareness. They're thinking about what's in front. And that is an issue. And I'm not, as we talked about this before, it isn't always a 16, 17-year-old racer. It could be a 40 or 50-year-old racer that's just getting started but hasn't raced. And no matter what, there needs to be situations where when you are being lapped, you know where to go. You know what to do. We have seen this time and time again where lap cars do not know what to do. I'm not out there. I'm not driving. I'm not the one that's behind the wheel. But from what I can see in some of these events, there's a very evident, very, very evident lack of awareness, as Calvin Racer mentions. You have to be able to check your behinds, besides, and in front. And I want to say someone had sent me their in. It's like, if it was me. So Chris Allard sent us the intro video today. What I would like to see, I'd love to see, is something like that, but it's facing, we're basically watching Chris's face while he's driving and seeing how often he's paying attention. Because in certain circumstances, especially in Pro stocks, you could be 3 and 4 wide in the corner, but then it narrows up, and then all of a sudden you could still be 3 and 4 wide. And I have been pleasantly surprised that we have not wadded up cars at Sunset Speedway this year. And for the most part, we haven't wadded up tons of cars. However, there has been situations where guys and gals have made judgment errors, and that happens in all of racing. But again, at the side of it, we want, not the best example. That man is going foot down going forward. Well, it might not be the best example, Calvin, but in terms of watching where people's eyes are and the situational awareness, Calvin would be an example. Paying attention to your surroundings, not just what's up in front. Because we've seen it where there's you just come across in front of somebody, cut somebody off. You know, maybe if you do that in traffic out on the road, people will stop. Not here. They ain't gonna stop. You're racing. I just don't want to see us get to a point where we're junking cars. And we've done that the last couple of weeks. We've had drivers that have been sore, that have been injured. We're not in the business of having injuries here. That's not. We're out there to have fun. Like that's what we're doing here. And what I was told by one of the veteran racers, you aren't going to win the feature in the heat. And I thought that's a great point. You aren't going to get the feature win in the heat race. Why are we racing like it's the last lap of the feature? Now, obviously, I think, and personally, I was having this discussion this week with some racers about what do we do in circumstances where you do have inexperienced racers? Should they automatically start at the rear? Ultimately, yes. I think you want people to be able to watch ahead, and go at their own pace. The other side of this too is, let's take that example of racers just starting. We talked about having so much of a buddy system or someone they could lean on, but also an automatic. So I look at this as like the work situation. At my work, for example, there's an automatic probationary period of 3 months. And basically, after 3 months, they can decide whether or not you're okay to continue or not. It could be something that if you are a brand new racer, you're automatically on a probationary period. Doesn't mean that you're under any penalty of sort, but you basically have to put on a good show. Stay out of the way, stay out of trouble. And if you don't, they might have to revisit whether you're going to be allowed to race or not. Maybe it's something where you're going to have to do the driving school, the racer, like the practice nights, and show that you are improving or you're able to race. And I know this sounds like ridiculous, right? But at the end of the day, we want racers that are out there that are comfortable, that aren't going to cause mistakes. Peterborough is 2 weeks or until you can show that you can hold the line and run with experienced cars or make clean passes. I love that. Absolutely love it. Because that right there, as Feeney mentions, you have to be able to hold your line. Now, I can say that we have some series where that needs to be implemented. And if you are new coming in, and this is a kind of good question mark, is if you have so many different divisions, if you have somebody coming into the division that you don't know where they've raced before, they don't have anywhere to go. They don't know how to race because they've never been in a bone stock. They're going straight into a higher division. It might be something we have to look at. Now, I want to hear this because Megan Mitchell always has great talking points. I personally believe there's nothing wrong with starting at the back when you're learning. I have previous experience, but I'm starting over, and I've started the back all year by choice. I've learned so much in 2 months than I did my entire 2021 season. I know all drivers will have their own opinion, but for me personally, it's helped a lot. Again, I struggle with anxiety, but still, this right there is what people need to understand. You have that option. And I think we all know that, we racers, people have egos and they want to be up there. You want to be competitive right away. But we also have to be realistic as well. You might be racing against people that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 years. You can't expect that you're going to go out there and you're going to compete right away. So I take a touring division, like say the Legends or the Midgets or Oscar or Ontario Sportsmen, and if they're new, they have to show that where they've raced. Big thing number one. Where have you raced before? Where did you finish in points? How many races have you done? We don't have what's a racing license here in the weekly divisions. However, there's a big difference between having a check and having lots of money and being able to race. Every racer that's commented on this chat knows what that's like. That they've probably been on track with somebody that has no clue what they're doing. That would be me, honestly. If I were going to go behind the wheel, I would have no clue how to race at all. And I can speak from my own experiences that I would want to stay at the back. Brandon Finney says, I miss running lower divisions and going out for practice. I'd run a little slower and tell newer drivers to follow me. They could learn my line, yes, and slowly push until I can see them come off the back bumper. Absolutely. Pat Farrow, somebody who, again, is somebody that we want to listen to because he's done this. I started the back. My first 3 seasons was the best thing I ever did to learn, and that was a good stepping stone. When I asked certain racers this at the racetrack, it was, would you rather start up at the front or at the back? And you know what most racers told me was they'd rather start at the back to chase. Not to be chased, but to be the one that has to do the chasing. The other thing, too, is if you spin out and you're at the back, you don't have anybody to run into you. Now, we could go on and on about this topic. It's why we do this show. We talk about things that are important, and seeing wrecked race cars every week it's part of racing, but it doesn't have to be as well. We can be more responsible as a community of racers in Ontario. you want to have the most educated, the most safe racers out there. And by having shows like this, we can discuss. We can talk about all of these things. When you start from the back, you can only go up from there. That's how I try to look at it. Megan Mitchell's correct. If you have a situation like Megan started at the back this week and finished 12th, why did she finish 12th? Because everybody in front of her had issues, and she stayed consistently clean. 18,000 subscribers so far here on G-Force TV. We're over 18,000. Make sure you guys give us thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. You get weekly content, including ONTrack Weekly on Mondays, Race Rivals Race Chat on Tuesdays with Clinton Jeffrey and Adam Ross, weekly racing out at Oshwegan Speedway, and a whole lot more. Make sure you do it. Subscribe to G-Force TV. We'll hopefully be out at Peterborough this weekend. Haven't been there in a while. We'll be there for a little bit. We'll probably be there the whole night, but I'm excited to get there, see some of the SNS racers. Hope to see you guys out there as well. Enjoy. Go to a racetrack this weekend. You won't regret it. Thank you so much for tuning in this week here on ONTrack Weekly. We'll catch you all for another episode